Hey people, welcome to the channel, and in this case, talking about a topic I get asked about all the time, especially in terms of security, the ability to defend ourselves, the tools to do so. This is going to be a video about the versatile shotgun and maybe some alternatives, and maybe by the end of the video, an extra twist that you may not have considered up until now. As always, if you want to learn more about realistic survival and preparedness, well, that's what I've been doing for a long time. You have the channel with a ton of information, really trying to get to that 100,000 subscribers, so sign up if you like what you see here. Also, you have my books, Street Survival Skills, Surviving the Economic Collapse. You also have the Spanish versions of my books, which are the best-selling survival books in Spanish, and French versions as well. That's going to be available in Amazon, and you'll have the links there below. So, yet again, the question about one of the more versatile tools you can have, which is a shotgun. There's a Mossberg 500 with the extra barrel. You probably know about how you have so many options in terms of the ammunition that these things can use, and doing a very basic, idea of what you have available. You have your bird shot. There's going to be a little bit of a thicker, more of a turkey load. You have your buckshot, which is actual, 8 to 9 millimeter balls of lead. It's going to be 8 or 9 of those in your typical 12 gauge shell. And then you have slugs, which is basically a big bullet, a single projectile that you fire through your shotgun. You probably know all about this, but it's always good to remind, especially for people that are new to this. Now, one of the aspects that makes the shotgun so versatile for a number of potential jobs is just that, the ability to use different ammunition. And if you're gonna do bird hunting, small game, you're usually gonna go with the smaller shot. The thicker, bigger shot is gonna be for big game, and for home defense, self-defense, you're gonna use buckshot. And for hunting, and in some cases defense, especially against wild animals, big bears and such, it's gonna be one of these slugs, right? A big piece of chunk of lead gets the job done. Now, this also works better when combined with the right barrel. You see the shorter barrel. This is going to be used mostly for your slugs. This is going to be used for your buckshot, especially for self-defense. Now, keep in mind that so as to get the most out of buckshot, you probably want to have a barrel that has a choke, either a fixed choke like you see there, that barrel. And by the way, for people that don't know what chokes are, well, choke is basically the narrowing down of the end of the barrel. And it can be something specifically within the barrel, or it could be a metal tube that you screw into the end of the barrel. Literally a small piece of metal tube that you just screw at the end of the barrel. In this case, you have a fixed choke, meaning it is a narrowing down of the end of the barrel that goes there. This one is what you call a cylinder choke, meaning the walls of the barrel are straight and there's no narrowing down in the end. Usually that's what you want to use for slugs, given that it's not a number of smaller projectiles that you can just push together so as to have them group nicer at longer distances, which is the purpose of the choke. No, the cylinder choke means there's no narrowing down, and that's usually considered much safer for slugs. You have to go by the manufacturer, but yet generally that's how it goes. You can shoot slugs in some chokes, maybe not the most recommended thing. Usually you want to go with a cylinder choke. Now, let's be completely honest, for someone that actually does hunting, small game, you probably will not go with something like this. You'll probably have like a nicer semi-automatic shotgun, like a nice Beretta or a Benelli, and the chokes for the load that you're using and the kind of game you're hunting. But this is kind of the thing when you look at it in terms of the practicality and the versatility. Yeah, you do have the extra barrel, you do have the choke, you have the shorter barrel, and by the way, you have sights in the shorter barrel so as to use these slugs. Now, it's not as if you're turning your shotgun into a rifle. You're talking about a effective range of about 50, 60, 70 yards. You can shoot longer, of course, but really when you go further away, you probably go into the rifle shotgun kind of situation, and that's mostly because of legal restrictions depending on the state or the country in which you are. But yeah, you're kind of pushing it to the point of, dude, go with a proper rifle, right? But still, it is true that this is one of the more versatile firearms you can own because of the different ammunition, because of the ease of changing the barrels. By the way, changing the barrel, it couldn't be easier. It's really less than a minute. You just unscrew that nut that you have there, it just slides out, you slide in the new barrel, and you just screw it down. Yes, it's like 30 seconds tops. Super easy. And you have that option. You have that versatility. Now, when we look at it in terms of some of the more versatile firearms you can own, and I've done this video many times. I just keep on doing it because this is something that keeps on popping up in the questions, and people really want to know more about this stuff and have the topic addressed again. Yeah, your 22 long rifle carbine is also widely considered one of the more versatile and practical firearms a human being can own. And a number of reasons. Maybe the more obvious one is this. For the size and weight of a couple, well, maybe not the weight, but it's kind of like self-explanatory. You have 2 shells of 12 gauge, and this is 50 rounds of 22. It is not because of the different ammunition, and you can use a number of different ammunition. There's a lot of options with 22 long rifle, from subsonic to standard velocity and high velocity and whatnot, but it's usually going to be a small piece of lead. Here you have pretty much anything that can fit into this thing, you're going to be shooting out of it, and that's where you have the different options. Here it's more about a small tiny bullet being capable of doing lots of things. And yeah, in terms of hunting, maybe with your shotgun, you have more of a, for proper hunting, right? You have more options with a shotgun. Maybe with your 22 long rifle, the idea of hunting big game with a 22, it's kind of not only frowned upon, it's basically downright illegal depending on the game you're shooting. It's not that it cannot be done. We've learned this many years ago that pretty much anything that walks, crawls in the face of the earth, you can put down with this. Now, I'm not saying go down to Africa and hunt elephants with these things. That's going to be pretty insane. But the point remains that you have a lot of options with 22. Of course, small game is what you should probably stick to, but it's been plenty of cases in which it has been used for deer and even larger game. Not what you would recommend, not ideal, and it could go very wrong for you. You do not want to defend yourself from a bear with a 22, but it's still the case that, yeah, it's still a round that you're firing. It can do a lot of damage, especially when you point in the right place and you hit what you're aiming at and you know the animal. Yeah, a lot can be done with a humble 22. And it's used all the time. Maybe a little bit more on the poaching side, maybe a little more on the margins of what you should be doing. Still remains one of the more practical firearms you can use. And then I want to add this extra layer, which is, let's be honest with ourselves. How much hunting are you actually doing? Oh, I hunt every year, every season. I always go hunting. Okay, you probably have a proper hunting rifle, right? You probably have a proper hunting shotgun for whatever it is. If we look at this from this perspective, in terms of survival and preparedness, we end up looking at things that we rarely end up doing. For most people, it's going to be shooting in the range. Maybe taking a shotgun class like I took. I did take my shotgun class with another Mossberg 500 that I owned a while back. One of the beauties of something as commonly available as this is pretty much anywhere you are in the world, you buy a Mossberg 500, it's always going to be the same thing. That's something also to keep in mind. But it's usually going to be more about that. And it's usually going to be more about self-defense. Self-defense is maybe the thing that we keep in mind the most when talking about these kind of tools and the role in terms of realistic preparedness. We also have this tendency of going into this fantasy lane of, yeah, when the end of the world happens, I'll be doing this. Oh yeah, but with my 22, I'll be scavenging the wasteland or finding a shell here and there and hunting a deer in the forest so as to feed my family in my cabin of the end of the world. All of this bullshit that is, it's fine, we do this all the time, but we have to kind of, put that back into its right place and be honest about what are the uses that we have for this. Really, self-defense is going to be most of the what comes to mind for this stuff. Yeah, it can be used for hunting, and there is an aspect of the practical farm tool, and maybe here is where the cheap ammunition comes in very handy. It also comes in handy in terms of cheap training and practice. This is cheap. This is easy to carry around. This is maybe one of the more useful things you can have in a farm. I will even say that in most cases that I know of, 22 long rifle ends up being more handy as a practical thing in a farm, in a homestead, even more so than shotgun. Shotgun shells are cheap, not as cheap as 22. Round per round, not as cheap as 22. a lot lighter. You can carry a lot more of it. You can reach further away. Now, if you have to defend yourself, what do you go with? 22 or a shotgun? Let's go with some of the things that people have actually gone through. Let's say you're in the outskirts of, you're in Buenos Aires, in some of the suburbs of Buenos Aires that are known to be fairly someone is kicking down your door. Someone is not going away when you say, I'm calling the police. They don't give a damn. They kick it down. And what they are received with is one of these shells. Yeah, it will do the job. It will put that person down effectively so. Now, can I defend myself with a 22? Well, yeah, you can. Statistically speaking, this is going to be quite a bit better. But is it not the case that 22 is also used effectively for stuff? Yes, all the time. Maybe not the stats as solid as buckshot, but it can be used, especially in a semi-automatic. Of course, if a couple rounds of 22 didn't do the job, put another one. I'm telling you, it will change that person's attitude very quickly. This is not what I can tell you based on, oh, I did this, and I don't really care. I'm not trying to be an asshole, even though it's kind of my nature many times. But, I defended myself against a home intruder with a slug. This is the best thing you can know. Oh, you don't know anything. I live in Canada, in the North Pole, and this bear broke into my home. How you shot? Doesn't matter. Statistically speaking, it is still one instance. When you look at the numbers for more and more data accumulated, you end up realizing that with a 22, with a shotgun, you can defend yourself. Is it the case that buckshot is obviously going to be better? Yes, of course. But that does not change the fact that a 22 works quite well. And again, this is cheap. And you know what? Not only is this cheap, this has zero recoil. Zero. You can shoot this as a child, a teenager, your daughter, your wife. They will all be far more inclined to go to the range or practice a little bit when you're shooting this and we're shooting that thing. Women usually don't like shotguns. I mean, there's gonna be some, my wife, she weighs 50 pounds and she shoots 12 gauge Magnum all day long. Okay. Congratulations. That is not the experience of most people. Most people will tell you right away that a shotgun does have a decent amount. I'm not particularly sensitive to recoil. I'm not gonna cry over shooting a couple boxes of 12 gauge, but I'll tell you that yeah, it definitely has more recoil. So if you start becoming objective and realistic about our needs, who's gonna use these things? Do you want your wife to be able to defend herself when you're not home and she has whatever it is that you have that you bought? Well, shotgun will do the job, but maybe she's going to be more accurate and a lot better trained with the things she actually used. I'm not saying go with a 22 over a damn buckshot for self-defense, but let's try to keep it real here. If you are living in a place where you actually have to shoot down pests and whatnot, yeah, maybe this is what you need to go for. And when we keep on looking at the realistic things, the things that you will actually end up using the gun for, this is why I usually go not with shotguns or 22s, I go with that thing. Why? Because when it comes down to it, it is about mostly self-defense. You need something to defend yourself. And you can defend yourself nicely with a Glock 9mm pistol. Is it more? Yeah, you have more power on your buckshot, right? But this is compact. You have 17 rounds. It is something you can actually carry with you if needed. Oh, but I live in wherever, and I'm not allowed. I don't have a carry laws here. Okay, but what about if there's an emergency and that does not even matter anymore because you're with other priorities in mind, which is keeping yourself and your family alive? Well, this thing you can throw into a backpack and no one can tell. This thing you can legally transport it anywhere where it's legal to own. That's something no one will argue against. Is that true or isn't it true? Yes, it is. If I'm evacuating, if I'm limited to a backpack and little else, and I have that stored in the case, the soft case, I'm legally transporting that around because I'm leaving behind my home because it was flooded, because it burned down, because of fucking aliens or Russians or whoever it is. Whatever you want to look at it, you are leaving. This you can take with you. This is going to be a little bit trickier. A 22 long rifle, well, maybe the takedown model that I have, that's going to be a little bit easier to carry around and conceal, and having a backpack if you're evacuating, that's something, an added bonus to that kind of firearm. But this with the extra barrel, yeah, good luck with that. It's not nearly as easy. Now I'm taking my car. Okay, I can throw a bunch of crap in the back of my car, but I'm going for the worst case scenario. What if it's a backpack? Well, that's what you want to have in a backpack. And there is even another layer, which is something that someone brought up in a video of mine not that long ago in my Spanish channel. By the way, if you want to practice your Spanish, I have a Spanish channel which is 260,000 subscribers, and it's much newer than my English channel. So please do subscribe. Don't be an asshole. I know that a lot of you guys watch the content of the channel and have not subscribed. It really shows the appreciation, and it kind of, having so much more subscribers in my Spanish channel, being that so much newer, yeah, I'd like to see that change a little bit at least. Hey, Fernando, but if I'm evacuating, I'm not taking any gun with me. What are you talking about? It just doesn't make any sense. And he's right. Dude, you were right. There is a number of cases in which you don't need to, it's not that you cannot have any gun with you. You're boarding a plane. You're leaving behind they're evacuating people, and they're not allowing you to go with guns. So maybe you try to hide it somewhere. Maybe you get yourself in trouble. Maybe you don't. It's going to be up to you. It's going to be a grown-ass man decision that you will have to make. Again, this you can have. This actually works to defend yourself. It's not as good as it's not going to be as nice as a carbine, an AR, or even a Mossberg, but it's something that's there when you need it. That's one of the essential aspects of preparedness, is having it with you when you need it, okay? That the handgun, the Glock that you have in your hand when you need it beats the AR in the gun safe, right? If I'm evacuating because I'm leaving Ukraine, I'm leaving whatever country, I'm escaping this place, I'm boarding a plane, I'm boarding a ship, a boat, there's people, it's been organized, the evacuation. Well, all of these things, you may have to go very, very light. But what about, I'm not even taking anything with me. Well, that opens up something that I've actually gone through. A lot of people don't even realize this, but there's maybe the possibility that you're leaving wherever you are, and the gun will serve you in other ways. It's not even about you're going to be using it. It's about turning that thing into the most valuable resource you often have during some of the worst emergencies. Which is this? The smallest violin? No. It is cash. Cash. And anyone that has left behind everything ever before, like I did, you realize that ideally you will have a little bit of time. And ideally, you will have shit that is valuable and you can quickly turn into money, because you will want to have money. If you're leaving for whatever reason, and whatever gun collection you have, if you're not able to take it with you, yeah, you better turn that into actual cash that maybe end up useful. And I've gone through this. I've gone through this more than once. I know what I'm talking about. And I've seen this in different countries, in different continents. And wherever in fucking planet Earth you are, if you have to turn a gun into cash as fast as possible, the best gun for doing that is a Glock. Everyone wants to buy a Glock. Everyone wants to buy a good Glock, a used Glock in good condition, and the price is kind of set. Now, Mossbergs are also fairly popular, and the market is usually pretty good. Nothing as good as a Glock. The Glock is always king when it comes to turning that thing into cash. It's not very cool, is it? It's not, but I want to kill zombies. Well, there's no fucking zombies. You don't get zombies. You get to evacuate and be grateful, like Mirav. Be grateful, Umar. Yeah, if you know the reference, you know. You be grateful that you're leaving with your life, unlike so many other people that were not as lucky. And if I'm a little bit extra lucky, I have the chance to go down to the gun store where I maybe bought it from or somewhere else. Dude, you know what? Yeah, you don't even say you're leaving. These are things you keep. Yeah, I want to sell it. How much can I get for it? Oh, okay, a Glock. Yeah, it's $300, $350, whatever it is. That you can do, folks. See you next time. Take care.